All right, Sandra, let's bring in Florida Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz, who serves on the House Oversight and Foreign Affairs Committees. I want to ask you about Mayorkas and overall border policy in just a second, Congressman. But first of all, everybody knows that your 23rd congressional district includes Parkland, Florida. And the situation there very similar to what we saw in Uvalde, and that a shooter went in, the police officer stayed outside while the shooting commenced. Your thoughts on what you've heard here from the Department of Justice and from these families in the wake of this shooting?
Well, thanks, John. Thanks for having me on again. I mean, it's heartbreaking. No, I'm not just from Parkland. I graduated Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, and I was with and watched those families bury their kids, bury their loved ones. And I saw the failures. I saw the reunification failures that happened in Uvalde in Parkland years before. I saw the failures of law enforcement not going in. The SRO never went into the building. Even after the building was cleared, he never went in. He stayed in the stairwell. I was in the DeSantis administration when the governor rightly removed the sheriff of Broward County because of the failures of what happened in Parkland. I called for the SRO's pension to be stripped. Parents depend on law enforcement to go in and at these kids' time of need. And being a former emergency management director, these are failures that should never have been repeated after Columbine. We know what the right protocol and procedure is. It's not like we don't know. You go in. These shooters aren't sophisticated. These are mostly young people with mental illness or deeply disturbed. And if law enforcement interacts with them, it can change the scenario on the ground. So I'm happy that the report came out. The news is devastating, obviously, and there needs to be repercussions. And we need a national standard across the board.
Yeah, and find some way to address the root causes of these shootings as well. Let me move to the impeachment hearing, if I could, in the House Homeland Security Committee today. We heard some heart-wrenching testimony from a couple of mothers of children who were killed as a result of the immigration problem, whether it be an illegal immigrant and violence or cross-border drug trafficking. Josephine Dunn, whose daughter Ashley died from a fentanyl overdose in 2021, said this morning. Listen here.
Secretary Mayorkas' leadership, or lack thereof, fentanyl is an invasion. The weapon of mass destruction has caused unimaginable numbers of deaths, unmeasurable damage to our country's families, including my own. My family is broken. My heart is broken, and he couldn't even be here to face me today. Whatever he's doing that is more important than facing me today, I don't know what that could be.
A lot of people at that hearing disappointed that Mayorkas did not show up. We should point out, Congressman, that you're one of 14 Democrats who signed on to a Republican resolution to rebuke President Biden for his border policies. Talk about that in just a second, but on the impeachment of Mayorkas, do you believe he should be impeached?
Well, look, I think he should be there. I think he should meet with these parents. I mean, I replaced a Congressman Ted Deutsch, whose nephew was killed by fentanyl. And listening to her testimony, listening to how she lost her child and all those parents that have lost their kids, again, it's no different than when I hear these parents who buried their kids from gun violence. That this is something that no parent in this country should deal with. It's why I've partnered with my colleagues across the aisle at every single opportunity to deal with fentanyl. And so that's why we got to do more at the border. I want to do more at the border. It's why I'm watching my Senate Republican colleagues coming out and saying they're negotiating the most conservative border policy that they've seen in a generation. It's why I'm willing to vote for that stuff. But we got to get the House of Representatives to take that up.
Yeah. Back to this resolution. It calls for, among other things, for President Biden to, quote, end his administration's open border policies. Do you agree with what critics of the president have been saying, that the border is, for all intents and purposes, wide open?
Well, John, look, I don't think the border is wide open, but I think we have major problems at the border. And the reason I voted for that resolution, quite frankly, is because, look, it's a resolution. It doesn't mean anything. It's not a bill. But I wanted to show my Republican colleagues that, A, I recognize there's a problem at the border, and B, I'm willing to work with them to fix it. we're in an election year now, and so unfortunately, I got some of my colleagues are now saying they don't want to do anything on the border because they don't want to help the president. That's what people hate about Washington. This is a unique opportunity. I'm listening to John Thune. I'm listening to Lindsey Graham. I'm listening to them say that we could get significant policy done. We could stop a lot of these issues at the border. We could make sure that parents, like we just heard from, that join an exclusive club involuntarily of burying their kids doesn't expand. We got to do it. Congress has to come together, both chambers. People have to take yes for an answer. No one's going to get everything that they want. But the idea that we can pass historic border legislation, I'm willing to do it, and I hope we get a chance to vote on it.
Congressman, it's always good to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.